I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this, but here I am trying to make sense of what just happened. My name's Mark, and I've been married to Lisa for about 5 years now. It's not that I thought we had some perfect relationship or anything. Nothing is perfect. But I genuinely believed we had a good thing going. We were comfortable, happy enough, and I guess I just trusted her. Maybe too much. The signs started small at first. Little things that I brushed off, like her being more distant at times, checking her phone more often, or canceling plans last minute. Nothing that made me suspicious outright, but enough to make me wonder if she was hiding something. Still, I gave her the benefit of the doubt. I even told myself maybe she was just stressed or busy with work. We've got a pretty busy life. She's a graphic designer. I work in it. Our schedules are hectic, and I guess I buried my gut feelings under the busy routine. Then, a few weeks ago, everything changed. I was throwing myself into planning my birthday party like I do every year. It's nothing fancy, just some friends, some drinks, good food. My best friend Jake was supposed to be there. My best man, actually. Lisa knew that. I've always told her how close Jake and I are. But I noticed something weird the day of the party. She was more tense than usual around Jake and kept looking at him in a strange way. I didn't think much of it then because, honestly, I was just excited about my birthday. That night I caught her lying about something small. She said she was going to the store but came back an hour later smelling like perfume I didn't recognize. I didn't confront her then, but I felt this sinking feeling in my stomach. It just didn't sit right. Over the next few days, I started noticing more odd behaviors. She was secretive about her phone, deleting messages, going out without telling me where or with whom. One night I found her phone open on the bed, and there were texts between her and Jake, talking about meeting up and having fun. At first, I thought I was imagining things, but then I saw the photos. She had sent him a selfie from her bed, wearing that same bitchy smile she put on when she's trying to be charming but is actually acting like a bitch. And Jake's reply, just a simple "can't wait to see you again." That was it for me. I don't know how I managed to hold it together that night, but I did. I stayed quiet, just staring at the screen, feeling my world crumble inside. The next morning I knew I had to confront her. I didn't want to believe it, but the evidence was right there. I was furious, hurt, and completely betrayed. How could she do this to me? In front of everyone on my birthday, no less. It's like she couldn't even be bothered to hide it anymore. I waited until she woke up, then I laid everything out, showed her the messages, the photos, everything. Her reaction was infuriating. She looked at me with that same bitchy smirk and started lying. Said I was crazy, that I was imagining things, that she was just talking to Jake about work stuff. Yeah, right. That's when I realized she's always been a master at lying and manipulating. She's good at pretending to be innocent, even when she's caught dead to rights. What hit me hardest was her tone, that dismissive, condescending way she brushed it off as if I was just some paranoid idiot. She called me jealous, insecure, even accused me of overreacting. But I knew the truth. I knew she was cheating, and she knew I knew. Still, she played her game, acting like the victim, saying she didn't mean for things to happen and that I was seeing things. I felt like I was losing my mind. The betrayal cut so deep. I've always been a loyal guy, the kind to give someone the benefit of the doubt. But this was a whole new level of disappointment. I couldn't even look at her without feeling rage and heartbreak swirling inside me. In that moment, I realized I needed to do something different. I couldn't trust her anymore, not after this. I needed a plan, something cold, calculated, and just enough to make her see she couldn't keep lying to me. I've never been the vengeful type, but I knew I had to make her regret ever crossing that line. The question was, how? That's when I started thinking about my options, about what revenge might look like. I wasn't sure if I wanted to destroy her completely or just make her realize what she lost. All I knew was, I never felt so betrayed, so used in my entire life. I still don't fully understand how someone you love can turn into your biggest enemy overnight. After that confrontation, everything changed. I slept maybe 2 hours that night, tossing and turning, my mind racing with all the ways she could have done this, why she did it, what it meant for us. The more I thought about it, the more clear it became that I couldn't just brush this off or pretend it didn't happen. If I didn't do something, she'd keep spinning her lies, and I'd end up losing all respect for myself. I had to act, but I wasn't sure what that looked like yet. The next day, I started digging. I needed proof that this wasn't just some one-time thing, that it was ongoing. I found a few more messages on her secret email account, things she thought I wouldn't find. Conversations that were more explicit, more revealing of how she'd been sneaking around behind my back for months, maybe longer. It wasn't just a one-night stand at my birthday party, she was actively lying and cheating on me with Jake. I felt my stomach drop every time I uncovered another piece of evidence. It was like peeling back layers of a lie she'd been weaving for so long. I was furious, yes, but also hurt in a way I didn't think was possible. I knew I had to confront Jake, too. I couldn't just focus on Lisa. Something about the way she lied so effortlessly made me realize she's a pro at manipulating people. I was angry at Jake for being part of it, for betraying my trust too. I called him that afternoon, no warning, just straight up. I didn't bother with pleasantries. Told him I knew everything, that I wasn't interested in hearing his excuses. His reaction was classic: denial, blame shifting, trying to act like I was overreacting. But I wasn't about to let that slide. I told him I'd never forget this, and if I ever saw him near her again, there'd be consequences. Meanwhile, Lisa kept up her act. She played the victim, crying about how I was controlling and paranoid. She spun her stories, saying she'd never cheat, that I was just insecure, that I was imagining things. She even accused me of spying on her, which I guess was true, but at that point I didn't care. I just wanted her to admit what she'd done. But she refused, spinning her web of lies thicker. Watching her try to gaslight me while I had the evidence was infuriating, but I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. That night, I sat down and really thought about what I wanted. I was angry, yes, but I also felt a strange numbness settle over me. I was angry at her, at Jake, at myself for trusting her so blindly. I started considering the possibility of ending things, just walking away and never looking back. But part of me wanted her to feel the pain, to see what she'd lost by messing around behind my back. I knew I had to do something big, something that would hit her where it hurt. I didn't want to just throw her out and walk away. I wanted her to see that I knew everything, and that she couldn't lie her way out of it anymore. The plan started taking shape in my head that night. I wanted to make her realize how much she's screwed up, how much she's lost. I thought about exposing her to her friends, her family, even her coworkers if necessary. I thought about telling Jake's wife if I could find her. I wanted her to see the fallout in public, in her social circle. That's when I decided I'd take her phone, her devices, her social media, everything, and leak her messages. I'd make sure everyone knew she was a liar, a cheat, a manipulator. Not just some victim defending herself, but the real, unforgiving truth. But it wasn't just about revenge. Somewhere deep down, I knew I needed to do this to reclaim my self-respect. I couldn't keep living in this fog of betrayal, wondering if I'd missed signs or if I was just stupid for trusting her. I'd always been loyal, a good guy, and now I felt like I was left with nothing but a big hole in my chest. How do you even start trusting anyone again after something like this? That question haunted me every minute, but I also knew I couldn't let her get away with it. If I didn't do something now, I'd spend the rest of my life wondering if I was naive or just unlucky in love. So I decided I'd gather all the evidence I could, texts, photos, emails, and then confront her again, only this time with a plan to expose her. I wanted her to see I wasn't just some naive husband anymore. I was the one in control of the truth. I didn't want to destroy her completely, but I wanted her to understand that I wasn't going to be played anymore. That's where I am now, trying to figure out how to execute this plan without losing myself completely in the process. It's a mess, but I guess I have to face it. After a night of relentless planning and a day of gathering every shred of evidence I could find, I felt like I was walking around with a ticking time bomb inside me. Every message, every photo, every email that I uncovered just fueled my anger and my resolve. I knew I had everything I needed to finally confront Lisa in a way that she wouldn't be able to deny or spin her way out of. But I also knew I had to be careful. This wasn't just about catching her in the act anymore. It was about making her see the damage she'd done and how I intended to respond. That evening, I sat her down in the living room. She looked at me with that smug, bitchy smirk that I'd come to hate so much. She knew I had found out and she was trying to play it cool, like she hadn't just been caught red-handed. I looked her in the eyes and laid everything out on the table. I showed her the messages, the photos, the emails, everything I'd been collecting over the past 2 days. I didn't hold back. I wanted her to understand that there was no way she could deny this anymore. Her reaction was immediate. She scoffed, rolled her eyes, and started her usual bullshit, claiming I was paranoid, that I was overreacting, that I was just jealous because she was more successful than me. She actually had the nerve to say, "You're blowing this way out of proportion, Mark. It's not like I slept with him or anything," before I cut her off. I told her I had seen enough, that I didn't want to hear one more damn excuse. I told her I was done trusting her lies and that I knew everything. She tried to pretend she was the victim, crying about how I was controlling, possessive, and not giving her space. That was her game, playing the victim, acting innocent, gaslighting me into second-guessing myself. But I wasn't falling for it anymore. I told her I knew about all the times she'd been sneaking around, about the sexts, the meetups, the lies she told her friends. I poured it all out. How she used her charm and her bitchy attitude to cover her tracks, how she's always been petty and manipulative, and how she never cared about us. Her face twisted into that typical bitchy sneer when she realized I wasn't buying her act anymore. She looked furious and defensive all at once. She kept insisting I was mistaken, that I was reading too much into every little thing. But I had her dead to rights. That's when I told her I wanted a divorce. I said I'd had enough of her lies, her manipulations, her cheating. I told her she was a liar, a cheat, and a selfish bitch who didn't deserve any more of my time. I could feel the rage bubbling up inside me, but I kept my voice steady. I wasn't about to yell or lose control. I had to be calculated. She didn't take that well. She burst into tears, begging me to believe her, saying she was sorry. It was just sex, she said. It didn't mean anything. Jake was just a stupid mistake. I looked at her and felt nothing but disgust. I told her she could spin her stories all she wanted, but I wasn't buying it anymore. I told her I was done, that I was leaving and taking everything I could from what was left of whatever we had. I was sick of her lies, sick of her bitchy attitude, sick of feeling like I was the only one trying to keep this marriage alive. As I packed my bag, she kept crying and lying, trying to guilt-trip me, saying I was overreacting, that I was the one who ruined everything. But I knew better. I knew this wasn't just about one mistake. This was years of lies and manipulation catching up with her. I realized I'd been a fool for trusting her for so long. I felt numb as I walked out that night, knowing I'd never look at her the same way again. She was the same bitchy, lying woman I married, only now I saw her for what she really was, someone who would do anything to keep her secrets hidden, even if it meant destroying everything I believed in. Standing outside that apartment, I thought about my next move. Part of me wanted to burn everything down, to make sure she paid for this mess in the worst way possible. I'd already decided I'd leak her secrets to her friends, her family, anyone who would listen. I wanted her to face the fallout, the humiliation, the complete loss of control. And honestly, I wanted her to understand that what she did wasn't just a mistake. It was a breach of trust so deep, I didn't see how I could ever come back from it. This is just the beginning, I thought. The revenge, the fallout, whatever comes next, I was ready for it. I wasn't going to be the guy who gets cheated on and just moves on quietly. I'd rather burn this whole thing to the ground if I had to. I still feel the sting of betrayal every time I think about her bitchy smirk and Jake's lies, but I know one thing, I'm done being the fool. The days that followed were a blur of chaos and reflection. After I left her that night, I didn't sleep much. My mind kept replaying everything. The betrayal, her lies, Jake's face when I confronted him, her tears, her bitchy smirk when she thought she was getting away with it. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut repeatedly. But at the same time, a strange sense of clarity started to take hold. I realized I couldn't stay in that house, surrounded by her lies and manipulations. I needed space to breathe, to figure out what I really wanted, and to plan my next move. I reached out to a few friends I trusted, people who knew Lisa and Jake and could give me some honest opinions. Their reactions were almost unanimous. Get out of there. Don't let her manipulate you again. You deserve better. That's what I needed to hear because, honestly, I was starting to doubt myself. All those years of trust, and now, I felt like a complete idiot for not seeing the signs. Earlier, the betrayal felt like a punch to my pride, and I kept asking myself how I could have been so blind. I also started to dig into her social media, her phone, everything I could get my hands on. I wanted to see if there was more I'd missed or if this was just a one-time slip-up. Turns out it was. I found more messages, flirty texts, late-night calls, things that made it clear this had been going on for a long time. The worst part was realizing how much she had lied about everything. She'd convinced herself she was the victim, spinning stories to anyone who'd listen, but the evidence was right there. It was like she wanted to keep the charade going, even as I was exposing her. Meanwhile, I decided to start planning my revenge. Not in a petty way, but in a way that would make her regret ever crossing me. I knew I couldn't just walk away and pretend it didn't happen. I wanted her to feel the loss, to see what she threw away. First, I made copies of everything, screenshots, saved messages, emails. I was preparing for the moment I'd need to confront her. Again, but this time with all my cards on the table. I also reached out to Jake. I didn't want to just accuse him blindly, so I told him I knew everything, that I wasn't interested in his apologies or excuses. I made it clear I'd be watching, and if I ever saw him near her again, there would be consequences. That pissed him off, but I didn't care. I'd never trusted him either, and this just proved how much of a snake he was. Honestly, I felt more betrayed by him than her because I thought he was my friend. Turns out, he was just waiting for the right moment to stab me in the back. The hardest part was dealing with her constant lies and gaslighting. She kept insisting she was innocent, that I was overreacting, that she loved me. That was the worst part, her acting like she was the victim, crying, accusing me of being paranoid. She played her victim card like a pro, trying to paint me as the crazy one. But I knew better. I saw through her act, I knew the truth, and I was starting to see that I had to cut her out completely if I ever wanted to heal. I told her I was serious about divorce. I wanted out of this toxic situation. She begged, of course, promising she'd change, that she'd never do it again. But I wasn't buying it. I knew her well enough by now, her bitchiness, her manipulative attitude, her lying. These weren't just mistakes. They were who she was. I told her that I needed time to think, to figure out how to move on, and that I'd be taking everything I could. Stuff, the money, the memories I cared about. I wanted nothing left of the woman who had played me for a fool. Throughout this process, I felt a roller coaster of emotions. Rage, sadness, disgust, and even moments of relief. Part of me wondered if I was overreacting, if I should try to forgive and forget, but deep down I knew I couldn't. Trust is fragile, and once broken, the pieces are nearly impossible to put back together. I realized I'd been foolish for thinking I could fix this, that I could somehow save what was already shattered. The only thing left was to walk away and learn from the experience, how to trust again, how to recognize the signs, and most importantly, how to value myself more than I ever had before. As I packed my belongings that weekend, I felt like I was finally taking control again. It's strange, part of me still feels empty and betrayed, but another part knows I've done the right thing. I've cut out the poison, and now I have a chance to rebuild. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know one thing. I don't want to live in a lie anymore. I want real trust, real honesty, and someone who actually cares about me, even if that means starting from scratch. The aftermath of leaving her was both a relief and a nightmare. On one hand, I finally got out of that toxic mess, and I didn't have to see her bitchy smirk or listen to her manipulative bullshit anymore. On the other hand, the pain of betrayal cut so deep I felt like I was bleeding internally. I stayed with a friend for a few days, trying to process everything. The house I used to think was my sanctuary suddenly felt like a prison, filled with memories I didn't want to face. I kept replaying what had happened, trying to understand how I'd been so blind. My trust was shattered and I couldn't help but question every moment of our relationship. Was I just a fool for believing she loved me? Had I missed all the signs, or was she just that good at lying? The worst part was knowing that she was still out there, spinning her stories about how innocent she was, how she was the victim. It made me furious. She's the kind of woman who acts like she's the victim, even when she's the one doing the damage. That bitchy attitude she always had. It just made her lies even more unbearable. I decided I needed to do something to really make her understand the damage she'd caused. Not just for my own sake, but so she'd never be able to manipulate anyone again. I started working on a plan to expose her completely. I gathered all the evidence I had, screenshots of her messages, photos she'd sent Jake, emails, everything I could find. I wanted her to see that I wasn't some broken man who was going to fall apart over her lies. I was going to make her regret ever crossing that line. I also reached out to a few old friends, people who knew her and Jake well. I told them everything about how she cheated on me, how she lied, manipulated, and played the victim. I warned them to be cautious around her because she was capable of anything. Some of them were shocked, others angry on my behalf. It was a small victory. At least I was starting to regain some control over this mess. Meanwhile, I kept thinking about how I'd move forward. I knew I couldn't just go back to the way things were. I'd been too betrayed, too humiliated. I had to rebuild my life from scratch, figure out who I was without her bitchy, manipulative influence. The trust I used to give freely was now a fragile thing, and I wasn't sure I'd ever get it back. But I decided I'd start by focusing on myself. I'd go to therapy, get healthier, and learn to trust my instincts again. I'd also be cautious from now on. No more blind faith, no more ignoring the red flags just because I wanted to believe in the best in someone. One of the hardest parts was dealing with the emotional fallout. I felt angry, betrayed, and just plain broken inside. Every time I thought about her, I got this sick feeling in my stomach. It was like I had been punched in the heart repeatedly. But I also realized I was stronger than I thought. I had survived the worst betrayal of my life so far, and I was still standing. I knew deep down I'd come out of this better, more cautious, more aware of what I deserved, and definitely more aware of who to trust and who to stay away from. The next step was confronting her again, but this time with full evidence in hand. I knew I had to make her see that I wasn't just some fool she could manipulate anymore. I wanted her to realize that her actions had consequences and that I was done being her doormat. I started drafting a message, calm but firm, telling her I knew everything, that I was done with her lies and that I was filing for divorce. I wanted her to understand that I wasn't going to chase her or beg her to stay. I was finished. Done. Over. I also made the decision that I wouldn't let her back into my life even if she begged. She's shown her true colors now, and I refuse to be a part of that toxicity anymore. I know I'll heal eventually, but right now all I feel is anger and disappointment. Still, I remind myself that I'm better off without her bitchy attitude and her manipulative lies. That she's the one who lost everything, her marriage, her integrity, her self-respect. And in the end, I hope she's left with nothing but regret. So I'm in this strange in-between place now. I've cut ties, I'm trying to rebuild, and I'm learning how to trust myself again. The road ahead is uncertain, but I know one thing for sure. No matter what, I'll never let another woman get that close and betray me like this again. Trust, once broken, is damn near impossible to fix. And that's something I'll carry with me for a long, long time. Looking back now, I realize that this whole ordeal has changed me in ways I never expected. The pain of betrayal is still fresh, but somehow I feel stronger. I've learned that trust is fragile and must be earned, not given blindly. I learned that some people, women or men, will manipulate and lie just to keep their secrets hidden, no matter how much they claim they love you. And I learned that I can survive the worst betrayal and come out the other side, battered, yes, but still standing. After I finally filed for divorce, I felt a strange sense of relief. Not because I wanted to punish her, but because I finally saw clearly what she truly was. That bitchy, manipulative woman who thought she could get away with cheating and lying without consequences. I saw her for what she was, someone who valued her own pleasure and secrets over honesty and loyalty. And I realized I deserved better, someone who would respect me and be honest, not someone who would betray me at my own birthday party. Living alone now is tough, but it's also a breath of fresh air. I no longer wonder what she's hiding behind that bitchy smirk. I don't have to deal with her manipulative bullshit or her excuses. I focus on rebuilding my life, my self-respect, and trust in myself again. I've started therapy, and it's helping me process everything, understand what went wrong, and how I can avoid falling for someone's bullshit again. The biggest lesson I've learned is that no one is worth sacrificing your peace of mind and dignity. No matter how much you love someone or how much history you share, if they're lying, cheating, and manipulating, cut it out. That kind of betrayal doesn't just hurt, it destroys. And the worst part is that most of the time, the person doing it doesn't realize the damage they cause until it's too late. I don't hold on to anger anymore, at least not all the time. I accept that Lisa was who she was, selfish, bitchy, manipulative, and that I was naive for trusting her so blindly. But I also forgive myself for that. I was honest, loyal, and gave her my best. The fact that she threw all that away for some fleeting sex and her own selfish needs says a lot about her, not about me. I want anyone reading this to know, if you're in a similar situation, don't be afraid to walk away. Don't try to fix what's broken beyond repair. Trust your gut, gather your evidence, and don't let anyone manipulate or gaslight you into thinking it's your fault. You deserve honesty and loyalty. And if you're betrayed, it's not the end of the world. It's just a painful chapter you have to go through to get to the better place you deserve. As for me, I'm slowly healing. I'll never forget what happened, but I also refuse to let it define me. I'll rebuild my trust in people, but I'll do it cautiously. I'll learn to recognize the signs of a manipulative, bitchy woman before I let myself fall again. And most of all, I'll never forget that I am worth respect, honesty, and someone who truly cares about me. That's the final lesson I take from this whole mess. Trust is precious, but it's earned, not given. And I'll be damned if I let anyone take that away from me again.